Soundstripe.
Trying to get a lot of dough. Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphone.
Soundstripe.
Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of goals. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible.
Welcome back to the XandO Sports Show. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley. Hope everybody's doing well. Been under the weather a little bit this week, but I made sure I was able to drop this video on today because the games are starting at 3 o'clock today. Because today determines who will actually go to what we all been waiting for, is the Super Bowl. Yes, these two games left will determine who will go to the Super Bowl in 2022, the 2023 season. But before we get into that, let's do a whole recap of what happened last week, which is very interesting. So let's start off with the Jaguars versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I like the game. I didn't think the game was that bad. To me, it was the young bloods versus the veterans. You know, those guys aren't like 30 and 35 years old, but they're a little older and longer of the tooth than the Jaguars right now. Jaguars got a second-year quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, and they got a very young team. But sometimes youth shows up in the playoffs. And like I said, one thing I did love was Dougie P, which is one of my favorite coaches. Dougie P is playing against Andy Reid for, another time. Anybody that knows the history on these two, they were on the same coaching tree. Dougie P came from underneath Andy Reid's coaching tree. Anybody who remembers, Dougie P went to Philadelphia and won a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, Andy couldn't get one for us, but we love the 13, 14 years that he gave to us and dedicated his life to. But as for the game, Kansas City ran the ball a lot more effectively than I thought they would. Unfortunately, Patrick Mahomes had a fatal ankle injury, in my opinion, because most people be out 4 weeks for that. It looked real bad. But I wrote it on the high part of the ankle, which is sometimes, if that is the foot, I think it is. I'm looking at the picture right now. That's his right foot. So when he drops back, that's where he plants. And you throwing the ball 35, 40 times, it's gonna get, agitated. But they actually ran the ball pretty effectively, ran for 144 yards. It's not bad. They ran it very effectively. However, both teams ran for 144 yards from looking at the statistics of it. But when I say they ran it more effective, I'm meaning they got the first downs when they needed them. Hey, if it's a 3rd and 1, they got it. If we had to close the game out with 2 first downs, they got it. That's when I say effectively. So as for throwing the ball, Patrick Mahomes, 22 of 30, 195 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not bad after sustaining the injury. Also, like I said, most people be out for weeks for the injury. Hopefully, he's up and ready to go today. Okay, they don't play till 6:30 if I'm not mistaken. Of course, Travis Kelce had a baller game, 14 catches, 98 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Good job, Travis, because everybody knows you're the best player on that team, offensively, in my opinion. But he still found a way to get 2 touchdowns. Somebody 6'6" that can move that well and wall off defenders is hard to beat. On the other hand, Trevor Lawrence had 24 completions out of 39 attempts, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not bad. Like I said, he didn't have his best performance, but I've seen way worse. Like I said, and the fact that he still has time to progress. He has a good coaching staff, in my opinion, and I feel like the longer he stays in the NFL and continues to progress, I think he'll be fine. He fell a little short this time with a loss of 20-27. Trevor, keep working. Dougie P is a quarterback whisperer, so I think you're in good hands. But I just feel like if teams are going to continue to go into the playoffs and battle, you're going to have to do it within the early ranks of those quarterbacks before they get those big contracts. But that'll be another episode. Next up, my Eagles versus the Giants. Oh my goodness. The people that we didn't serve up some barbecue chicken. I got to sit upright in my chair for this one. When I tell you We pounded them. I mean, we pounded them. I felt like, hey, I didn't think the Giants could beat us, but if we let them hang around, they could cause problems. We beat them down on the scoreboard and physically in the trenches. When I tell you we sacked Daniel Jones 5 times, we forced an interception, and we held Saquon Barkley to 82 total yards. I think he had a little over 60, like 61 on the ground, and he had like 21 in the air. I mean, in receiving. 0 touchdowns. That was the hardest part, because if you give Saquon a crease, he can go. I watched him play, I think it was 2018. He caught a crease. He gave the dead leg to Malcolm Jenkins coming down in the box, and I blinked it. He was in the end zone 42 yards away, so he can run. But as for the offense, for us, we ran the ball 44 times, and they knew it was coming, for 268 yards for 3 touchdowns. Gainwell had 112 yards on 12 carries. So that's really about 10 yards a carry. Miles Sanders had 90 yards on 17 attempts. He actually ran the ball effectively between the tackles, which is for a leaner back. You don't normally see that happen all the time, but we got a gigantic offensive line. Eagles, like I said, we threw for 154 yards, 2 touchdowns very effectively. You really don't have to throw the ball as much if you run it for 268 yards. They said the ball didn't get thrown around a lot, but we were effective with it. We didn't have any turnovers in the air. The Giants, we ran it down their throat. The defensive line, the linebackers and secondary was on point, and they held the Giants to a 38-7 win. Fly, Eagles, fly. But one thing I was proud of was the fact that even though we beat them 38-7, we were trying to make a statement. The Giants, first of all, hats off to them. They had a good season. They had a rookie coach. He got them in. He turned that organization around this year. Hats off to him. But we want to let people know we're for real. But moving on to Cincinnati versus the Bills. Excuse me. It was way more scoring than I thought. I really thought that this was going to be a low-scoring game because it was snow everywhere as soon as I turned the TV on. And the fact that Cincinnati showed me how dangerous they can be because they can effectively throw the football, whether it's rain, sleet, or snow. Moneybag Joe had 23 of 36 in attempts. Well, I'm sorry, 23 completions out of 36 attempts, 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not a bad day, no interceptions. Mixon, he rushed for 20 carries, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. As for a team, the Bengals rushed for 172 yards total. That's not bad. When you actually are in games like that with the snow and the elements, you have to run the ball effectively, and anything over 135 but under 40 attempts is a good day, in my opinion. Jamar Chase, like I say, found end zone once, as well as Hurst, not a bad day in the air. As for the Bills, they didn't give up a lot of sacks, which most time when you lose by 17 points, you got to look like, well, what happened? Did they get a lot of pressure in their face? Did they give up a lot of sacks? Did they have a lot of turnovers? From what I saw, in my humble opinion, this is just a game of lack of execution. They gave up 1 sack, 1 interception, but you lose by 17 points at home. That's not a good look. However, like I said, they are young and they can get back at it. But this was just a game of lack of execution. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of turnovers. They had the ball several times. Like I said, it's one of those games, if you don't execute, you go home. And they went home for the 3rd time in a row. Moving on to the last game, to me was the least entertainment. I only have their picture up. The fact that we all know who it is. It's Dallas versus the 49ers. Now, this is no knock against the 49ers. This is mostly for Dallas. You have a $90 million running back. He gets $90 million over 5 years. Now, this is his 3rd, and I think this is possibly his 4th year in his contract. It really doesn't matter because the fact that you paid him $90 million to run the ball. And people be like, oh, well, you know, he's old. He's getting banged up. Fine. Hey, he's getting paid. You better find a way. So $90 million at running back. You got $160 million over 4 years. Now, people that are good at math, is a whole lot of money a year. So, you have a good offensive line when healthy. I have my Eagles And when the Dallas line is healthy, I have them at number 2 in the NFC. That's a good offensive line when they're healthy. How you only put up 12 points? No, that's in my opinion, I'm not a Dallas fan, but that's unacceptable. First of all, Dak is the first to blame. You can't demand all this money and all this props and not be the first to blame. So he's the first to blame. You got to take over the game if you want to be classified as elite. If you want to be classified, hey, as a game manager and I'm just going to make my money, then fine. But you can't be like, hey, I'm a top 5 quarterback. No, you're not. That clearly, your statistics of how you play does not show that. If he threw for 150 yards, 3 touchdowns, and find his way to galvanize and win, then we won't be as critical on him. It's not all about stats, but you have to win. He threw for 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Like I said, to demand the money that you want is unacceptable. If you don't like the pressure, this is what I suggest. Go take a nap on one of those beds that you keep promoting on TV. Because you love to advertise it. Like I said, or find another sport. There's no way you should get paid over $160 million over 4 years and you can't perform or compete at the highest level. Now, I said the same thing about Cam Newton years ago. He took $100 million over 5 years and thought that they weren't going to be on his neck for losing. Yes, they will. Same thing with Drew Brees. Drew Brees went 8-8 2 years in a row. One of those seasons, his team averaged over 40 yards. Over 40 points a game. And they still went 8-8. It was not Drew Brees' fault because he put up 40 points. But you can't take that type of money and think you're going to have a good defense too. See how that works? So, unfortunately, good thing for Dak is he got a young defense. But what happens when number 11 is going to ask for $100 million? You're not going to be able to keep him. That's how you lost Amari Cooper. So, like I said, it's not looking good. And like I said, this ain't just no shot to Dak. Anybody get paid that type of money, get the same treatment. As for Zeke Elliott, he was labeled as active and healthy from my understanding, what I read. 10 carries for 26 yards. Nope, that's piss poor. And also, this is not just on him, this is on play calling. You're not getting blowed out. So it's not like you're down 30-10 or you got to give up on the run game. But for him to only have 10 carries for 26 yards, that's piss poor play calling. And you're not going to tell me, because Pollard got hurt. If I'm not mistaken, Zeke still is your starting running back. Pollard gets a lot more carries because he changes the pace. We all know clearly that Pollard can't carry the load by himself. He can't carry it 300 times by himself. No. I mean, unfortunately, he got hurt. This is not saying he's soft, but he's not built to take that pounding. And the fact that you have a guy that can do it, and you call it 10 carries for 26 yards, no, that play calling got to change. Once Pollard went out, hey, we already know, hey, Zeke, you might get a couple crack tosses, but you can run up inside zone. Might give you a couple trap plays and hit it quick, downhill. If they're going to pin their ears back, that means the passing game is opening up. I go play action, and those linebackers suck in because they fear Zeke coming through there running hard. Then the passing game starts to open up. So, all of it is not on Zeke. All of it is not on Dak. 50% of that is on play calling. So, the fact that Dak loses to the 49ers, nobody made Brock Purdy look like a rookie. Nobody. First of all, Brock Purdy, good job. Good job. I like the fact that, you stayed inside of your scheme. You didn't get out of it what you normally do best. And the play calling was very good. Like I said, I did not think that they made him uncomfortable. They sacked him twice, for what I'm reading. Brock Purdy and the 49ers, good job. You won an ugly game to get into the NFC Championship. Congratulations. But unfortunately, by winning, segues into you coming to Philadelphia. I feel like our pass rush will get to Brock today. Which segue into our predictions. It's only 2 games left, and my Eagles are in one of them. And you already know where I'm going. My prediction right now, we're going 27-17, Eagles over the 49ers. I like Brock, but I think if we make him uncomfortable and make him look like a rookie, we're going to put his hind parts to rest tonight. He gonna be going home. However, if we get out there as Eagles and we BS, and don't put no pressure on him and let him start getting some big throws down the field and give him confidence, he will upset us because he had one of the best play callers walking this earth. So the thing is, if you stop the quarterback from executing his plays, nobody else will get the ball. It's simple math. If we stop him, Christian McCaffrey can't do so much. He can get the ball handed off. If they can't throw the ball effectively, we're going to run away with this for 27-17. I feel like they're a very good team. They're very sound. But when it comes to us lining up against them, I like our skill players versus their skill players. I like my secondary versus their receivers. And I like my receivers against anybody's secondary. Smitty, Brown, my tight end, I like them against anybody. Line them up. But moving on to our last prediction, Kansas City versus Cincinnati. I'm going with Moneybag Joe and the Bengals. I think he has Patrick Mahomes' number, and he will advance to his second Super Bowl. The score I got is 30-27. Besides the fact that he done beat them 3 times. 3 times out of the last 4 times they played. There's no way you can tell me that is fluke. I personally think that Cincinnati could beat them again. Andy Reid, you're going to have to call his best plays tonight. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like us on Instagram at XandOsports. Also, follow us on YouTube, XandOsportstalk. And be sure to follow us on Twitter, XandOsportstalk. I'm your host, Ricky G. Stanley. And
Sounds
you know how our slogan goes. I am
Trying to
out
get
of
a
here.
lot of dough. Anything is possible. Turn me up in the headphone.
Soundstripe.
Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough and dirt through all the obstacles, cause anything is possible. Yeah. Oh man, I got a lot of gold. Stack that bread and by my nose. Anything is possible. Yeah. Trying to get a lot of dough.